Here we are.
We're moving on to the second round of the tournament here.
The tournament that will never end.
And our contestants in this round of the tournament will now be rated based on their screen presence, their charisma, their force of personality.
Riz.
Very good.
He said
very
it.
Good.
He said the thing.
Gen Alpha. Very good.
Where would we like to begin?
I'll roll this D4. 1.
But it says 3.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at the corner.
Oh, gotcha. Right. That's an odd way to read a die.
Yeah. Whatever points at Kyle is what I say the number is.
Here's the funny thing. A little bit of movie magic there. I was the one that rolled the die, and Scott pretended like he did.
Do you think it picked up the thump?
I even made the motion.
I've seen that.
That's a little treat for you audio listeners.
That's scenes knowledge.
Some movie
As if
magic.
there's other kinds of listeners than audio.
So we're back in video games, and we're going to see number 8, the Origami Killer from Heavy Rain, versus number 5, the righted Dutch Vanderland from Red Dead and Red Dead DOS.
Okay. Maybe Riz should have been the first round. A lot of number 1 seeds might not have been got.
This is no contest to me. Scott Shelby, I believe his name was. Yes.
Yep.
Scott Shelby.
That's who you're going with.
No, no. Unfortunately, I'm not. Not unfortunately for him. He's just kind of like a fat, dopey loser, right?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, isn't kind of the idea that he doesn't have much of a presence because he's trying to lay low.
Right. Yeah. He's very unassuming.
Even when he reveals himself,
it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Huh?
Scott Shelby's the Origami Killer? Spoilers.
I guess that's the pain of like it being a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because it's not. It did. This is just from me. Maybe somebody got this feeling. I don't think so. Maybe somebody got this feeling when they played the game. I know when it was revealed, the grand reveal, I'm like, oh, that's kind of lame. I like it when the best kind of mystery, I'm sure everyone will agree, is and it's the hard part of writing a mystery, is when the author can be like, make you think you know it right before it's revealed. So you don't feel like an idiot, and it's just, boom, there it is. It was Scott Shelby the whole time. I'm not saying I felt like an idiot when it was revealed as Scott Shelby. It's just that it didn't necessarily feel... I didn't have that satisfying feeling like when...
A proper mystery
they explain it all, and they're like, oh, look at what happened in this scene. You didn't even know.
A proper mystery should have enough foreshadowing that you're never surprised by who the villain is.
Sure.
I think
it should be a surprise, but you shouldn't be surprised that they're the villain.
I think there should be enough foreshadowing that once the reveal happens,
absolutely.
You're like, oh my god, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like it should have more of an aha.
Well,
there should never be a, wait, what?
And what's really
yeah, that's what he's saying. You should be surprised that, like, oh, wow, I should have seen it coming, not, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We were agreeing.
Well, and what's also really frustrating about Heavy Rain is I think they deliberately mislead you in certain scenes. I remember there's one scene, the scene at the antique shop.
I was about to say it. Where
you're just Scott Shelby doing Scott Shelby stuff, and this guy goes into the back room, and, like, the police come, and you've got to, like, wipe down all of your prints because the owner of the antique shop
is dead.
Gets killed.
Yeah.
While Scott Shelby is there, and he's like, oh, shit, I gotta, like wipe my fingerprints and get out of here. But then it's revealed later that it was Scott Shelby who killed the antique store owner.
And he burned some evidence the antique store owner had because the Origami Killer had bought something from him or something.
Mm-hmm. Like a typewriter.
Yeah. But why didn't that guy be like, oh, I know you?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, I think he did because Scott Shelby on paper liked typewriters or something.
And what's really frustrating is you're playing as Scott Shelby during that scene, and then it's only revealed later that no, actually,
you did
without the game showing you, took control of Scott Shelby during that scene and made him kill the antique store owner. The worst way they could have done it.
Absolutely.
Also, the killer never changes, regardless of what
choices
of the choices you make. Because at the beginning of the game, there's enough suspension of disbelief where anybody could be the killer.
Like, I know there was a healthy amount of time where I'm like, I think Ethan's doing this. Mm-hmm. He feels guilty, and there's some sort of weird, double personality thing going on.
And at least with Ethan, it makes sense because he will just like black out
Yeah.
and wake up in an unknown location, which
Boy,
I don't
feel
think
that.
I don't think that gets resolved. I
It
think
doesn't.
I think he just kind of does that, and I don't know how he gets moved.
Yeah, I thought it was
But then-
because they in the characters are like, oh, Ethan, you're getting arrested for being the Origami Killer. I thought it was going to be like a double reversal where like actually the whole time he was doing it. Where in a weird, I'm not saying this is great, but in a weird ironic twist to what you were saying, where the game takes control of me, even though I was Scott Shelby, and then he just killed a guy and then burned some shit. But I didn't get to do that.
He killed him off screen, even though the screen was on him. It's this is just the rant about Heavy Rain portion of the tournament.
Regardless, as far as screen presence goes, the best it gets is going to be what at the end when he reveals himself as the grand conspirator.
And he has this little monologue.
Yeah. And the fact that I don't even remember what happens and then he loses if you hit the buttons right shows how worthless his screen presence is.
Do you think there is a single person in the world that says the Origami Killer is actually my favorite villain of all time?
No.
There's a lot of people.
they're on this list, so apparently there are
That's
some
a good
people.
point. That's a good point.
He made the list as like top 20s and 30s and 40s.
Really? It was just he was the most consistent one?
He was a consistent top. Like
That's just
People play
really
Heavy Rain.
Yeah, like it's so surprising to me. Maybe it recently got a Steam release or something.
Hey, if you'd like to watch somebody play Heavy Rain, we have a full playthrough on the channel.
Nama Jaden.
ABP, always be plugging.
we should really go back and re-edit those. Sort of
No.
45 minutes long.
AVP, Alien versus Predator.
Ah.
Yes. So Dutch.
Yeah, we can talk about Dutch for a little bit.
Dutch is a
You
fucking
think
write-in.
Micah
I don't
would've
think
won here.
that shows how much screen presence he has. That he wasn't in this tournament and he's still here.
Yeah. His whole character is how smooth of a talker is and how charismatic he is. And he's a very strong leader, but there's also just like this facade about everything he's doing. He likes to present himself as almost like an aristocrat, he like a noble, where he is always
Very
talking
well
about
read.
he's always talking about philosophy and books and pontificating and citing all these authors.
Do you think it's real?
What is
I don't know. There's an act in there, and what I really like in Red Dead 2 is you start to see the cracks forming.
Yeah.
I think the one standout for me was when you capture the Italian guy. I can't remember, and you like take him out to the swamp, and
Oh, yeah.
Dutch just goes ballistic.
You call your friends! You call them now! And then he feeds them to an alligator.
It's pretty fucking badass.
It's badass, but it's like completely at odds
Yeah.
with the calm, cool, level-headed, always has a word to say Dutch that we've seen up to this point, where
reminds
he
me a
is
lot of
just like,
Askeladd, actually.
He has a retort to when John questions him. He's like, Dutch, what part of your fucking teachings talks about feeding a man to a goddamn alligator? And he says, the part about weakness, son.
yeah,
Like,
great, thank you. I must have forgotten to read that part.
oh, sorry.
What page is that? Who said weakness?
Weakness.
can't
Chapter
read, John.
3-8 of what?
So Dutch is very much so like a Wizard of Oz character.
I think you could see him that way for sure, but there's a lot of different ways to take it. Like when I said, I asked Cody just that, is it real? Do you think it's real? And if I were to label it, his screen presence is very practiced, like as a character.
Yeah.
He wants to be that guy.
I mean, even in the way that they dressed him up in the game, where everybody else has these very casual browns, he has a black and red vest.
He looks
And,
like he
like,
just got out
chains.
of a casino.
Yeah.
And
he has the very gunslinger to the side.
Yep.
Like, something that I always think is awesome to compare is he has that very cowboy western gun to the side holsters, whereas Hosea has like the cavalry ride style holsters, just to show the difference in the two characters. One thing that I think is going to be important in the charisma portion is everybody's first scene.
Okay.
The first time they're there. So what are your guys' thoughts on Dutch Vanderlyn in Red Dead 1?
Yeah, extremely different from the character you meet in Red Dead 2, because it's just been years of him festering out in the wilderness. He's lost everything, and yet he's still trying to hold on. He's becoming savage.
Yeah.
Which don't take that in any wrong way, because he's mostly associating with Native Americans at this point. But the reason he's associating with them is just because he can con them easily.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing that I thought was interesting, playing as John Marston, you don't know anything about his past really, other than what he chooses to say. Mm-hmm. And he talks about how he wasn't a good man and yada yada, but doing all this stuff will help him get back to his wife and his son.
Yeah.
And like the next person that really talks about her is Dutch. And I just remember in that standoff scene where he's holding the girl, and he's like, you know, his wife's a whore. Like, we all had her, but he married her. You know what that makes him? A better man than us. Yeah. And, like, flat out, he's just calling his wife a whore. But, like, he spins it in this way that's, like, that's just, like, it feels...
What, I think I know the... Go ahead, but I have...
Feel free.
Well, I think that reveals something there, that Dutch... at his core is just extremely bitter about everything. And I wouldn't even say petty, but just like bitter and angry and maybe even a little jealous.
That's why I said petty, is at least that read of that scene, because it's been so long, I don't even remember the scene, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But it makes him a better man than us, is like...
Oh, because you walked away from it all?
Exactly.
Yeah. I could absolutely see that, where somebody like that would be like, oh, you think you're fucking better than me?
Yeah.
You
Bro,
I got out of this.
I'm just happy, I did a great job.
I don't know if Dutch wants to be like this, or he has no other choice. He can't change. Arthur and John tried to change.
Maybe it's like a sunken cost thing. Even. Yeah. Who knows?
I don't know. He might have also, like... part of what I think makes him interesting is the fact that, like, you can ponder this and, like, feel like there's valuable options either way.
Yeah. I don't know what the right answer is.
Because he could... my thought to it is, like, he knew he's at the end of the line. Mm-hmm. And he realized, like, oh, damn, my best times, I didn't even really enjoy them.
Yeah. And they're long gone now.
Yeah.
Let's vote.
It's no contest for me.
Yeah.
Dutch.
Scott Shelby. No, it's Dutch. It's Dutch.
Dutch.
Say Dutch.
It's just the scene that I feel like he commands the most, though, is when Arthur tries to stand up to him, and like Arthur does. He's like, you got the women and the children. You gotta let them go. And John, I insist. And you just hear him. He's like, insist.
Oh, he insists.
Insists.
And Arthur's just,
and he's like, yes. And it's just like, there's this like fear that you as the player who's been playing Arthur this whole time is like,
do I not know Dutch?
And like, and he's like, of course, pal. And like his whole tone changes.
It's Dutch turning on Arthur finally. Where, I guess he was just intimidated or jealous or angry that Arthur was no longer getting pushed around.
Yeah.
Like he needed obedience, not loyalty. I think that's the difference.
That's a very good point.
Arthur needed loyalty. Dutch needed obedience.
Was Dutch was it the voice actor for Dutch that won an award, or was it the voice actor for Arthur that won?
I think it was Arthur.
I don't know.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Something was telling me it was Dutch, but I think they both got nominated for it, which they did an insanely good job.
Yep.
That happens a lot with these big dramatic things. I know last year...
Was it God of War?
Yeah, God of War. And there was that shot of whoever voiced the boy, like looking like when Kratos won, he was like pouting, and I can't tell if it was an act, but it was kind of cringy. Anyway,
I could talk about Dutch for another
we'll
half
get
hour.
a chance
yeah,
to.
I guess he's moving on. So great. All right, moving on to the next matchup in video games, we have number 2, GLaDOS, versus number 3, Sephiroth.
Ooh, number 2 and number 3 bout.
I'm gonna need some help with Sephiroth as far as screen presence
This
goes.
is interesting because GLaDOS gets a lot of screen time,
right?
In the second game.
That's arguably the best part of the game.
She's snarky.
Oh, you're always happy when GLaDOS is there,
Absolutely.
even when she's absolutely berating you.
From the very small amount of Portal that I played,
I got through the first test chamber.
And we're including Portal
I
2,
did.
right?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Portal
Absolutely.
2, she's even better there.
Yeah, I
has
did
physical
3,
presence.
right? And she's just like, "Oh, hello there," and it's like all this stuff, and it's great.
And then she starts
Wow.
insulting you.
Excellent.
I am very
Okay,
bad
okay,
at
you
knowing
swayed
what
me.
she actually says.
Hello there. Oh, wow, this is great.
I love...
That's what you just said.
One of my
Shut up.
favorite things about GLaDOS is not just how snarky she can be, it's how like ridiculously powerful she is in this setting of aperture testing, whatever, where she has almost unlimited control to do whatever she wants, and she's still so petty as to call you fat.
That's why it reminds me of Am a lot, where Am is this. He's functionally a god on Earth, and he doesn't have anything to do with his time other than to torture these 4 motherfuckers who have nothing to do with him other than being human.
And it's like, even though she's being mean to you, you still kind of like it.
Yeah.
Like that one, I can't remember.
Like, it's so petty. It's
Well,
just
it's like-
a good time.
It's like, she'll like insult you in some funny and clever way, and you'll be like, all right, I'm mad, but that was pretty good.
How many
You got me
people-
pretty good there.
How many people developed a Dom fetish because of Portal and Portal 2?
I don't know about that.
Pretty much you.
And he only did the first test chamber.
Yeah.
First 3.
Oh, excuse
He
me.
didn't even get to the point where he saw what's her name wrapped up in the
Carolyn.
painting. In the painting.
Oh, gotcha.
I love
I know-
how she just in the first one where she gives you the companion cube. You go through just a few fucking rooms with it.
Just one.
Just
Just one room.
and then
And
you
she
have
makes
to
you incinerate
and then she calls you a bad person for it.
But
for
that's the
rest
only way for me to proceed.
Doesn't she also remind you that it had a conscience or something?
Yeah,
yeah, it's just a box.
So she definitely makes you laugh, and her screen presence implies, to me at least, it implies a lot of baggage. Like, she has some kind of chip on her shoulder that might have something to do with you. Maybe it's something about humanity. Maybe she just hates being here, and you're the only one here.
And like 99% of the time,
does
she's not
seem like
actually
that.
even on screen. It's just her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And like the opening of Portal 2 is you ended up going back to the room where she just is. And you're like, the mess you left behind. And all of a sudden, she's back and filling the whole screen. And you're like, oh, great. She's gonna really put it to me
I
this
think it's
time.
also the first time you see her angry.
Oh, yeah, she was pissed.
Because even in the boss fight of the first game, like, she's getting upset, but doesn't feel like there's anger.
She also, it's like, she feels in control still.
Yeah. Huh.
What about Sephiroth? Somebody help me.
So, let's start this off by saying that I think she provides a comedic screen presence.
Mm-hmm.
There is a innate pressure that comes with Sephiroth.
Yeah. I
Like,
think I can see that.
The moment he's on screen, and like in the original game, you don't really know anything about him. You don't know anything about him. Then you start to find out this Mako thing, and like all of a sudden he starts to show up in just random places, but it doesn't make sense. There's like cards that he's always holding that just doesn't make sense when you're playing the game. And then like I feel like because it was a fully text-based game, that like his presence wasn't as easily felt, except for the one scene where he kills Aerith.
Aerith, what I breathe.
But he is attempting to control Cloud to do it. Initially, Cloud shows up there to kill her and take the black materia, which is what Sephiroth uses to summon Meteor. You go into that knowing like, oh fuck, this is terrible. But as soon as Cloud doesn't do it, you see Sephiroth act on it. And that's like one of the few times there's good graphics in the game.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly though, like I think like that's it. Besides that, in the first game he feels a lot like just a boss.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the remake and rebirth, specifically remake because I can't fully talk about rebirth yet. But in remake, like one of the first things that happens in the game is after you blow up this Mako reactor, Cloud's like trying to walk through the city, and all of a sudden just he has this vision that happens, and like everything's on fire, and you just see Sephiroth walking through this debris, and he turns and looks at Cloud, and it's just like chills immediately go up your spine, like what the this didn't happen in the first game. And Sephiroth just like how in the first game it felt like he was holding all these cards that you didn't know about. He knows something's going on.
It's ramped up even more in the remake.
Exactly. Like, even just, like, thinking about that scene, like, if I had hair on the back of my neck where I'm balding more, it would be sticking up right now.
Yeah.
And, like, that's the first scene where you realize, like, this isn't gonna be just a remake.
Is it a similar experience to, like, the Psycho Mantis fight from,
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
I didn't play Metal Gear.
But what do you mean?
Well, like, so they have it programmed so that it, like, so Psycho Mantis, like, starts making your DualShock shake.
But what do you mean?
Like, it'll disconnect your... You feel like he's in control. Like, there's more to him.
He's in control in a way that you've never experienced in a video game.
Yeah, he's not in control of, like, the fight or what's going on. He's taking over your PlayStation.
That's a very like out of game experience.
Yeah,
this feels like an out of narrative.
That's very meta. But what I was about to say is the Sephiroth thing feels kind of meta.
Yeah.
The idea that he seems to be literally busting through the plot. He's not supposed to be there.
And
I played this game. I know he's not here in Mako City or where the fuck it is.
Yeah. To steal a line from Zero Punctuation, if you bought a game called Final Fantasy VII Remake, you might be under the assumption that you are buying a remake of the game Final Fantasy VII, but that's actually not the case.
It's actually remaking the story of the game. That's why it's called Final Fantasy VII Remake.
And I like what you brought up there, where it is kind of meta, where it's like, I've played this game before, I know what's supposed to happen, and this is not right.
Like, imagine you're watching Endgame.
And then the character who I'm most concerned about shows up in that scene and it's like, I do know what's happening.
Like, imagine you're watching Endgame.
You're like, oh shit.
He actually doesn't know what's happening, but he
has the ability to act like
he has
he
the
does.
stage presence and the charisma to make you think he is.
A few minutes later, you run into Aerith for the first time.
Aerith, what I breathe.
And Aerith is great. Aerith is, she's being, like, harassed by, like, these weird ghost things. And you don't know what they are. They also weren't part of the first game. And you find out later that they're called Whispers. And they're supposed to control the fate of the world. This is where it gets a little crummy. It gets a little bit, like, this is the writing. Basically, they see that things are going off kilter. And it's supposed to go this direction, so they try to force it to go that direction. And all of your characters, Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, Aerith, go ahead.
No.
Okay.
I am not your whore.
Oh.
That's something like that. Tifa's what I breathe.
I actually had a bit of a Freudian slip there, where I said Tifa is what I breed.
I mean,
I didn't mean to, but
my goodness.
it just kind of slipped in.
But, like, your characters run into these, and you try to fight them throughout the game, and, like, you can't do dick to them. But then, like, later on, when they try to swarm Sephiroth, he just cuts them down like they're nothing. Yeah. And that's another, like, dude, what is this guy?
It's very anime.
It is very anime.
Where we know the hero's power level, and then the villain shows up, and that thing the hero spent so long, like, defeating one of, now there's 100, and the villain's just like, and it kills all of them.
Yeah. Do you think anime might have been an inspiration?
You think?
In Final Fantasy VII?
Fucking fat-ass sword.
Maybe.
You were trying to bring up something about Endgame.
Oh yeah, you were. Just the idea that, like, that's the vibe I got when you were describing that, is imagine I'm watching a movie that I've seen 100 times, and then, like, say I get to the scene where Thanos is about to get decapitated by Thor, and then the Thanos from the end of the movie shows up and kills the Avengers. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what would happen. That's what it feels like. Where I've seen this movie, and that's not the way it went. Why is he not following the rules of the plot?
Yeah. How did it change?
Yeah.
This is the same movie. This is the same fucking DVD I put in here.
Yeah.
What happened?
I think Square Enix just knows Sephiroth well enough to, like, give him that entrance. Because if you move back to Kingdom Hearts, you have that, oh shit, moment at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1. And they were like, be pretty cool if we did it again. And then they did the exact same thing in Kingdom Hearts 2, but they made it part of the story. And you're like, oh fuck. Oh fuck, we're fighting.
So I know that the Kingdom Hearts lore is totally fucking impenetrable. I don't care what anyone says. Why is Sephiroth there?
Because Cloud is there.
Why are they there?
So
because they have the license.
They're owned by Disney?
I mean, Because at one point, a dude from Disney and a dude from Square Enix, when they were
You
working in the
got-
same building,
You
ran
got
into
my
each other.
Finding Nemo in my Final Fantasy.
I that's why the lore is impenetrable because you ask these fundamental questions about the meta narrative and there are no answers. There are no answers why there are Final Fantasy characters and Disney characters.
This is just going to
together.
come down to preference, and unfortunately, Sephiroth loses that for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have experience with GLaDOS,
Yeah.
and that's gonna win out.
To me, that's unfortunate because
It is.
I feel like it should be open-minded, and like it's a debate, but to me that mindset
Like,
means like you're walking into this saying like, oh, I already know my answer.
you were
Why even talk about Sephiroth?
you were selling it really well. It's just a matter of I want to go experience that. I'm not willing to go buy a Final Fantasy game to
I've said
experience.
this.
neither.
I've said this
But
like
I have a
100
friend who let me
times.
borrow it without me asking.
I've had this I've said this thought like 100 times. One of my favorite aspects of a villain, I think Handsome Jack is like the quintessential idea of what I'm about to say. Where whenever they're on screen, I want them to be there more because they make me laugh and I learn something.
GLaDOS is the exact same thing.
Yeah, I don't necessarily learn all that much with GLaDOS, but absolutely she makes me laugh and I want her to talk to me.
I think-
Because, please notice me.
I think this, at the very least, I think like these two are very heavily clashing with why their screen presence is
Good.
what it is.
Yeah,
Their
It's two
screen
very
presence-
different.
Yeah.
absolutely.
But there is a reason why, to me, this is number 2 and number 3.
Yeah.
Like, these guys were always rated right there at the top of the list for, like, the 6 list that I look at.
Ganondorf, number 1. Out round 1.
I'm going with GLaDOS here.
Are we going, which way are we going? Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sephiroth.
I'm gonna go GLaDOS.
What are you going to say?
No.
gotta pick.
You know what?
I don't really know which way we were gonna go here.
I'm kind of
You guys want to say it at the same time?
I think,
Say it at the same time. You have your idea?
Make sure you guys lean in close so we pick it up well.
yes, and I'll explain my reasoning.
Right. On, go. 3, 2, 1.
GLaDOS.
Sephiroth.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I was this close to saying Sephiroth, but at the very last moment, I realized that what was very intriguing about Sephiroth is the meta reveal that the story is being changed, and it's revealed that you're actually in an alternate universe of
Something
Final
like
Fantasy
that,
VII,
yeah.
something like that, a different
Spoilers.
timeline or something like that. Play the first game,
Here,
and
I'll tell you, you think you're going to get answers in the second game? Immediately, it makes you ask more.
but that reveal can be done without a character like Sephiroth.
Yeah. He's a vessel. He was a tool used for the narrative.
I'm not going to say it's coincidental that he is there. Maybe he's only tangentially related to why that is such a good storytelling device. I
Maybe
think.
this is totally insane what I'm about to say, but like imagine if instead of Sephiroth, like literally Sin from Final Fantasy X just busted in. Wouldn't it be the same effect?
No, that wouldn't be the same
No,
effect.
I think it.
If you were a fan of Final Fantasy, absolutely. If you're a fan
No,
of
I don't
Final
even-
Fantasy VII, that doesn't make
Listen,
any
man,
sense.
there's 2 Final Fantasies I've played a lot, okay? And it's 7 and 10.
Well, that would be a different remake.
I think GLaDOS's presence. I think hers is more.
Hers is more
Self-contained.
fundamental to the character.
I
feel.
Yes.
I do feel like with the remake, Sephiroth has become a tool for the writer, where GLaDOS was a character.
Sure.
All right, we're down into.
Flush that guy.
We're over into TVs
got
and
flush.
movies now. We are looking at Hannibal Lecter versus Negan.
I think this is a good first one for the TVs and movies. His overwhelming spooky, like him being there, like his whole presence to me is he knows something I don't, and once he's trying to use that information against the hero, and as soon as he gets an opportunity, he's gonna fucking eat her. He's gonna eat her ass, and not in the hot way. And like that's inherently spooky because I just feel like
If this class wasn't here, I would eat you.
yeah, absolutely. His presence is totally unrepentant fear for the viewer, because I know I'm afraid of what he is capable of doing in this scene that I'm watching.
You're no longer looking at like the old Hannibal Lecter, the doctor, the gentleman who's got those little slips that make you question things. This is the monster's in the room and the mask's off, and the only thing sitting between you is that little piece of glass.
Yeah.
I
It's actually kind of similar to the shark from Jaws.
Almost.
I think it's
Except you can always see.
I think it's interesting because there's two things that you said that I also feel are very the same for Negan.
Yeah.
You are sitting there waiting for what he's going to do next. Like there's anticipation, anxiety,
No breathing.
and like suspense. I noticed such a vast difference going from the previous season to that one. And like he didn't show up in the first episode, he showed up like 2 or 3 episodes in. And it's like I went from just kind of like letting it go to the next episode to on the edge of my seat, running out of popcorn and having to suffer without popcorn to watch what happens next. Like I almost, I don't want to say I was scared to pause the video, but like I didn't want to.
Yeah.
There's also something vaguely Game of Thronesy about this in my head. The like with Negan, where he represents the frailty of the characters I love. He could just show up and kill the guy I like the most in the show.
Mm.
And maybe this wasn't so well done in Walking Dead. Again, didn't watch it past the second episode. Thought it sucked dick. But maybe it was set up. At the very least, in a show like Game of Thrones, I have my complaints about that as well. Not even the end. But when Robb dies, I can see the mistake he made to die.
Yeah.
And I still get that dread, that sinking, this was my favorite fucking character. I mean, not necessarily me, but this was my favorite character. And there's nothing I can do to stop what's happening. I already know what mistake he made to cause this on himself. Did poor Glenn make a mistake? I'm not blaming Negan, of course. I'm blaming the writing overall. That's the only non-Game of Thronesy thing I feel with Walking Dead, because it did feel brutal and random.
Glenn did not, but Rick did. Rick, and I can't remember the old lady's name.
That almost makes it worse.
Yeah. Like, in what way?
Well, like, your favorite character didn't do anything wrong except for listen to the person who's done right by them every time up until now. And it's the mistakes of somebody else that leads Negan to going, all right, I'm just going to off him, and now I'm kind of interested in fucking with the guy who sent him here.
In his first scene, he just demystifies, like, this main character that, like, you're like, man, he's righteous. He's morally, like, he's the guy. And immediately just demystifies him.
Yeah. It almost feels like maybe he's not as creepy as Hannibal Lecter, but he might be just as ruthless and murderous as Hannibal Lecter, and there's no glass between you and him.
Right. Oof. I like that.
Who knows when he's going to strike? At least with Hannibal, we know he's back in prison. Until he isn't.
I wish I knew who made this analogy, this metaphor that I'm about to say. I don't remember, but it's always kind of stuck with me. Hannibal Lecter, and even to a lesser degree Negan, embody this idea, kind of like the Joker. The Joker is scary in a way that, like, a drawn knife with a toddler in the room is scary. Where something dangerous could happen, and it's nobody's fault, because this man is just a force of nature.
There is one particular scene. It's not from Silence of the Lambs. It's from, I believe, Red Dragon. I preferred, like, the Manhunter version with Brian Cox, but we're talking Anthony Hopkins for this one.
Brian Cox.
We talk about Hannibal Lecter in, like, Silence of the Lambs, where, you know, the mask's off and the monster's in the room with us. But there's a scene in Red Dragon where he makes a phone call. Now, he has a phone in his cell. For whatever reason, they let him have a phone. And it has no buttons. He can only go through, like, through the prison system. And just when nobody's looking, he rips open the phone, hotwires it, and gets to an operator. And calls the person that they're trying to find. And he has the perfectly pleasant voice back on, asking her for directions and like, hey, you know, I'm trying to get a hold of this person. I seem to have gotten in through the operators. You know, the mask went right back on, and he was this perfect level of pleasant. And you're like, oh, he's only crazy while he's in here. except when nobody's
Oh.
looking. He's not only is he the monster, he can just put the act right back on. He's not broken in any way. He can go right back to it, which means if he gets out, it's just as big of a problem.
Or is he so broken he's just learned to control it?
That was the part to begin with. It's like being imprisoned didn't take it away from him.
I do like the idea that, what good is pretending I'm not the monster while I'm in here?
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows. I'm not hiding it from anybody.
It's fun to watch people flinch when I tell them I'm gonna eat a man's liver.
It reminds me, I think the character drew heavy inspiration. The situation in Silence of the Lambs certainly drew heavy inspiration from Ted Bundy, because they, in real life, approached Ted Bundy to see, hey, could you help us catch this guy? He didn't help at all.
No.
But that idea, of course, it's a great idea to go interview a serial killer to be like, hey, there's this really bad guy out there, and we don't know what the shit he's doing. Mm-hmm. But speaking of like the monster and wearing the face, it's very Ted Bundy. So people see what he did with those poor unfortunate souls and their corpses, right? And they're like, oh my god, this guy must be a gibbering maniac. And then he's just like a guy. Or just blatantly... I don't even know what I'm talking about. The point is, it reminds me of Ted Bundy.
So I have two things between the two of them. The thing about Negan is that he's a wild animal, right? Mm-hmm. I know to keep my distance. Hannibal is behind glass. He's a zoo animal. I'm not prepared if the polar bear gets out of its exhibit.
There's a horse loose in the hospital.
Oh, I'm in the wild with Negan.
Yeah,
like, you know he's dangerous.
I've come prepared. I know.
Are you prepared?
To keep my distance.
Because that's also...
Or at the very least, I didn't come at all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the other. That's the great thing about Hannibal Lecter. A lot of the times is like, it's very hard to tell what he's gonna do because it seems like there's some kind of code going on there. Like, he only eats rude people. Not really. He'll still kill you, but he only really kills rude and eats rude people.
Is there an argument?
Is this something that goes on with Negan, or is he all, I'm just gonna do what I need
he eats everybody.
He eats everybody. Okay, he doesn't care.
Is it unreasonable? Oh, I thought you were done. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it unreasonable to factor in the performances?
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Unreasonable?
Not unreasonable. Is
that not what we're talking about?
Well, no. What I'm like specifically, what I'm about to say is, I hadn't seen it. I watched the scene with Negan killing people, and I gotta say, meh.
Yeah.
It came off to me as like, I'm crazy. I'll bash your fucking head in. Whereas, of course, nobody's going to argue that Anthony Hopkins is one of the greatest actors of all time. What I'm saying is, in that department, as they are performed, there's no fucking way Anthony Hopkins' screen presence is going to be beat by Jeff.
For screen presence, absolutely, I think that counts.
I do think that it can still be influenced by writers.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
There's other forces.
There's a lot that goes into screen presence. I would say that performance is a big part of that.
Sure. Like, I think those two things are the biggest thing.
Like, if the voice actress who did GLaDOS couldn't land that level of snark, she wouldn't have been nearly as fun.
I wonder, like, another thing is not only their performance, but the performance of others in the scene.
That helps too.
Also is very important.
I think this goes into my second thing I wanted to say, which was
he's up to 2 things now.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
I know.
That's this many.
Yeah,
there you go, podcast listeners.
Very good.
So a part of screen presence to me is the cinematography and where your eyes are directed. Right. I think in The Walking Dead, a lot of times when Negan is at the forefront, he's center stage. In the
certainly in the scene I watched.
However, Hannibal Lecter gets a little more range with it because he's not the main character. He's just there.
He doesn't have to be in the center of the shot.
Yeah, he's not even the main villain. So he can explore the space, and my eyes are always on him. And they don't have to be.
You don't need the camera telling you what to focus on.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I think you've just fully convinced me.
Yeah.
I think
like,
that was the final.
It's just like, he doesn't have to be the thing you're looking at in the screen, but he is anyway.
So Negan?
Yeah, he steals the scene, man.
I'm going with good old Anthony Hopkins.
Now-
Sir.
Now that
Anthony
you've
Hopkins.
used that last piece of information, I'm going with Tifa.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at.
That's what I'm looking at. No, I also agree. I think Hannibal Lecter is the guy.
Yep. Yep.
I think Negan has a lot of potential as a villain, but he's unfortunately shackled to a show called The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter is my vote.
I think that's a clean sweep there.
Yep.
I don't think it would have
second?
been nearly as close if Negan was better written.
Yeah.
We've got Gollum from Lord of the Rings and versus Hans Landa from Inglorious Basterds.
You said this was going to be a hard one.
I think this one's hard. I
don't
love
know.
both of
I
these
don't-
characters.
But we're talking about screen presence here.
That one monologue in Two Towers where Gollum is arguing with Smeagol
So
should have won him the Oscar.
That's a good point, actually.
we all agree that was a great scene. That was just flat out him acting with himself.
Yes.
Like, and everyone saw that as two different characters. Like, everybody knew exactly what was going on. I think that's the first scene that you want to go back to because that's the first thing you think of. But I also look at, like, the way that he interacted with Sam and Frodo and, like, the two different sides that you got. Even as Smeagol, you see him interacting with Frodo and how he interacts with Sam. And you recognize the whole time, like, yeah, that's Smeagol, but he hates Sam because Sam hates him.
I can just tell that's not Gollum, even though
Yeah.
he's mad and angry at Sam right now.
There's also that one scene in Return of the King when it's right after we see Frodo escape Shelob the first time, and he has his little fight with Gollum right before he throws him off that cliff, where he's trying to convince Gollum, I have to destroy it for both our sakes. And you see Gollum's face move from, like, concern to just, like, rage in, like, a second. It's so good. It's so good.
I think the best example of screen presence in Gollum's character and Gollum's run in the films is probably the riddle scene in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have to always watch him because very early on he showcases, even if he's going to play by the rules, he knows how to walk around the rules to still get to you.
The whole time Gollum's like, bro, let's just eat this bastard. And
Right.
Smeagol's like, no, I want to play a game. I haven't seen anybody in fucking years.
I feel like the most powerful scene for me was literally his very last scene,
Yeah.
where you see just like 5 seconds of him falling into the lava, the capture of fear and betrayal. Like,
Yeah.
in that moment, I'm eating up like every pixel of Gollum there is.
But aren't we supposed to be looking at this through the lens of villainy?
Even so.
That's a good point.
Like, that's not necessarily a villainous screen presence to me. In fact, the only overtly villainous screen presence I think Gollum has is in that riddle scene.
No, he's definitely got some. There's the in the Return of the King when they're climbing the stairs. One of the best versions of an overt villain scene is where he is crumbling up the lembas bread and dropping it off the edge, and Sam immediately suspects him, rightfully so. And when he finally turns him around, what were you doing? Please just defend yourself for real. Let me know that I can trust you. And Gollum comes in. Sneaking. He really was being the bastard right there.
I'm
You
just
did also
saying
call
this
him a fat hobbitses.
under the lens
Unbelievable.
of the criteria we're presenting. I just don't see it. Like, compared to Hans Landa, his whole thing is domination of the scene he's in.
I will say Hans is one of the best progressions of villain character. He's got every scene of it.
I find it difficult to not immediately vote for Hans on this one.
I mean, we also, I think we should say, I think Hans is a fair vote. What led Gollum to the lava scene was something that was antagonistic.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, I'm not saying Gollum's not a villain. I'm saying in his scenes where he is the one driving the scene, he's the one I want to look at. He's the screen presence. I don't think he's the villain most of the time.
He's a tragic character.
I'm
Absolutely.
curious how our conversations about Eren Yeager are gonna go.
Yeah.
I think Gollum has some great scenes.
I do think you make a good point about some of his scenes are truly not as a villain.
He's a difficult character to want to like. It's like in Two Towers, where Frodo's like, now that I do see him, I do pity him.
Mhm.
Maybe he does deserve to die. That's a difficult character to love. You can pity them and empathize with them and want them to be better.
What an interesting talent to have for Andy Serkis, to breathe life into, specifically to be able to breathe life into digital animation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
It just completely ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I watched those movies and I'm like, these came out 20 years ago and they still look great.
God, I say the same thing about Final Fantasy X.
You know,
I honestly say the same thing about Jurassic Park too.
Actually, in all seriousness,
that one came out 30 years ago. They're making a Gollum movie. Apparently, Warner Brothers can't get enough of Gollum. We got the game, and now we're getting an origin
Did they
story.
get Andy Serkis?
Yeah,
They fucking better. Maybe it'll be amazing.
he's directing.
Okay.
Dude,
He's directing and starring.
Okay.
imagine
It was
when
the word
we're like 60 if we all make it that far, and like Andy Serkis is gone, and they're like, we're remaking Lord of the Rings, and like we're those old fucking douchebags that are like, yeah, it's not my Gollum.
If
That guy's a fucking idiot.
in 10 years when they do that to Harry Potter, if I felt anything about Harry Potter, I'd be that guy.
They're already doing it.
Great.
They're doing an HBO series. They're making a TV series.
Great.
Do you think they'll make it through all the books?
no.
No.
Because I imagine they're
What is
doing
it,
like
one book a season?
it'd have to be right.
I could totally see them fucking doing like 2 or 3 books.
As
Or,
much as
sorry,
season.
2 or 3 seasons a book.
Oh.
Like, be like,
Oh,
let's fucking catch this
2
cow.
or 3 seasons a book.
Yeah.
John, how are they going to do that? They're kids.
Filler, bro. Filler.
I didn't
They're
even
gonna
consider
grow
that.
up.
I didn't even. They literally 40 years old by the time they get to the Deathly Hallows.
The kids in Stranger Things are 27 years old now, and they're playing 18-year-olds.
They're gonna be like 40 years old when they get to the chess scene, and she's like, he's like, not you, not me, not Hermione, you.
He's actually what breadth he's bringing to the character. He's actually has asthma though. He actually does have.
There's nothing more pathetic, really, than an adult with asthma.
So,
All right, everybody.
Here's my thought on who wins between the two of them, right?
We haven't even talked about Hans.
Yeah.
Well-
So,
So, like, who are you going to fall for in the scenario?
Gollum has those bug eyes.
well, here's
The
the
beady buggy.
this is the thing that because your point from earlier really slams it home to me. Like, as much as great as Gollum is as a villain and as good as he is for some of the scenes he's in, the thing is when Hans Landa is in a scene, not even on camera, I am tense and concerned about what he's doing. Like, he is the problem in the room, even when he's not on screen, even when he's not involved with the characters. I'm like, what is Hans Landa about to do? Because I know it's gonna get involved later.
Chris, you made a point that is going to be used in every argument the rest of this round.
English graduate.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, like, so, like, with Gollum, right? I don't think I'd fall for, the two-facedness of him, right? I don't think I would ever believe that Hans had my best interest at heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't think I would ever be capable of doing anything about it. So I get to just watch the storm happen.
Right.
I love that analogy though. Like, Hans really is that to me. He is the storm on the horizon that's coming right for me. And what can I do? Run away? It's just going to keep coming over the horizon.
You can't hide in the cellar from the tornado. He'll find you.
Yeah.
Like in the first scene.
You really do hide in it. That's bad enough. What you just did was bad. You do hide in the cellar from a tornado. It does often
Yeah,
work.
but he's the tornado you can't hide from.
He's that mythical EF6. Nobody saw it coming.
is that enough conversation?
I'm going for
me,
Hans on this
yeah.
one.
We've interestingly talked more about why Gollum isn't the choice rather than why Hans is.
I could see him being a valid choice, but specifically for
But-
me, I don't see he isn't the focus of the scene for me. When
Listen,
he's
Right.
Hans down, you sold me.
Yeah.
I think
I think part of it was we wanted to give Gollum a fighting chance.
Yeah.
I like Gollum as a character better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
but not as a villain.
but I think it's a consequence of the tournament structure.
Yeah.
We have to think about the charisma of the character, and I think one of Gollum's defining traits is his lack of charisma and his lack of charm.
That's so hard to use, though, because, like, it is, but the fact that we're stating it means that, like, Andy Serkis did a great fucking job.
Well, yeah, it's like that's the point of the character, and it's great that that's the point of the character, but it also makes it difficult to vote for him in a Riz competition.
Yeah.
We'll just put a pin in here. Like, you are an honorable win, bud.
Gollum asterisk.
I would love to see Gollum continue further, but there's no contest.
Also,
it's what's the term? A double tap, a 2-shot punch, a 1-2 punch.
1-2 punch.
There it is. I found it.
He got it.
It's a 1-2 punch. Not only is Gollum a pitiable character, lacking any charm or charisma, he's up against Hans Landa, who's just aces in this category. Like number 1 draft pick.
We see him in round 1, we're like, oh, he's gonna win that one. Like, we just, oh, okay, Riz, yeah, he's got that. It's like looking, it's similar
Like,
to,
we looked at that tournament bracket, and we were like, Hans Landa's making it to round 3.
Yeah.
I do feel like, out of all the characters that were put in, Gollum was, like, this odd egg that made it.
Yeah. Right.
My vote is for Hans.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hans in the crepe scene is.
Hans and the Crepe Scene, that's a good band name.
Okay. Moving on to the next part of the bracket, we are in supervillains now. We have number 1 seed, the Joker, Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight, versus Syndrome, played by Jason Lee
This
from
is
The
a tough
Incredibles.
one.
That one is tough.
For Riz, charm, screen presence, force of personality.
We
Especially
voted
with...
Syndrome?
Yeah.
Against-
Who did he beat?
Voldemort.
I thought he lost.
In terms of motivation.
No knows.
The
Winner
nose
is Syndrome.
knows.
All
The
right.
no-nos,
He
no.
he was so self-aware, man. You sly dog. You got me monologuing. It's so good. But like he wanted to try his hardest to look like a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And heroes wear capes. Heroes have like the flashy outfit. He has a giant S on his chest for Syndrome.
He still ends up looking like a villain, even though he tried his hardest.
It's
to look like
the black and white.
that doesn't.
It's not colorful enough.
What's interesting here, and I'm not going to try and deflate everybody's
question?
arguments right now, but yes, that's so quotable, the "you caught me monologuing" line, and it's great self-awareness, and he does really seem like he is in control of every scene he's in. But at the same time, it also feels like it's all just an act.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, maybe.
I think that's intentional.
I think it is, because that's the
'Cause
burden of the superhero.
He's it's the burden of the superhero. He's still just Billy,
Buddy.
from the very beginning. Sorry. Fucking hell.
You know, they're strong. I'm being genuine. There's strong Jeffrey Epstein energy, where he's this nerd who is super fucking rich. And he's probably been surrounded by everybody who's at his beck and call.
Mm-hmm.
So he never developed this is how you be a normal functioning human being. So it's all kind of pretend, where you call me monologuing.
Yeah.
I'm the coolest guy in the room because I said so, and I have the most money.
His alter ego has become Ego Main.
Sure.
Ego 1.
I do love that. I love that idea. It's, oh my God, Scott. What an interesting thing I just said to myself. Where part of the reason I'm unsettled by the Joker is it feels like there is nothing there. And which is to say, he's not wearing a mask. He's just constantly lying about what his origin is. And it gives you this impression that there is nothing there. This man was formed in a lab to be a spooky, insane man.
He just manifested one day.
But he's always like just one soft breeze away from just like getting violent.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think you see it the most in the whole like, you want to see a magic trick with the pencil scene, and like he just kind of talking, and then like the pencil's gone, and like
Ta-da!
it was, and it's just like
it's
like
gone.
like dude flipped the switch. Like somebody who wanted to look down a dark hallway, but they didn't want to see the response. So it was just like on off, like it was that fast.
And what's interesting that is in the comparison is I know that if Syndrome is going to get violent, it's because he got one-upped. It's because he got angry.
Mm-hmm.
I have no clue when the Joker is going to get violent.
No,
there's no,
and that creates
switch.
that suspense.
Like the one time it's in that scene, the one time I feel like there's a genuine person there is when they're like, "You're a freak," and he's like, "I'm not." And I'm like, oh shit, what was that?
Why is
Hold
that
on.
the
And
thing
then
that
it's just
triggers him?
gone. That person is gone for the rest of the movie.
It's summed up in the very first bank heist scene where he just indiscriminately kills his henchman, and then when he goes to the bank manager and he puts the grenade in his mouth, and it's not a frag grenade, it's just a smoke grenade. It's like it's a good subversion because I saw him use indiscriminate violence before, and he had the opportunity to do it now, but he didn't.
He just
Why?
Why did he just play a joke on this guy?
The Joker feels like, so when you have a movie scene, unlike a war, right? And the character who's the buddy of the main character, and you're like, yeah, he's cool, they're gonna make it out together, steps on a landmine. And now you know that landmine is going to go off. I do not know when, but it will be catastrophic when it does. That is the Joker in every single scene. I don't know when he's gonna go off, but he will. And I just get to watch the chaos of it. And then Syndrome does not feel that way.
Yeah, because the kids' movie.
Well,
Right.
yes, but
also the thing about the Incredibles is that it's a noir mystery movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like
Great music.
It's not an action. It's not like the Avengers where it's this big superhero action scene. It's a mystery novel. It's, Mr. Incredible is not here to punch bad guys. He's here to solve the problem that's going on. There's a lot of stakes that are going on, and he has to be sneaky. Where and that's rare for a main character. Contrarily, Syndrome does not have that. He's the one in control of the situation, and he can be as overt as he wants to be, which gives you this interesting dichotomy between the two.
What's really fun to me is I love this idea that in a superhero movie, like in Endgame, and imagine in a world where a Marvel movie comes out and people are like gushing about a scene where just the hero is talking to the villain. Not the scene where they're fighting at the top of a building and they're flipping over a semi-truck, like real life Christopher Nolan got a semi-truck and flipped it the fuck over for the movie. No. It's everybody loves the scene where it's Joker and Batman in the interrogation room.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I remember for sure. Like when I think about that movie. And I think that's a great deal of that is because, and it's similar to The Incredibles is what I mean.
To build on
You
that,
caught me monologuing. That's the thing I always remember, not only because it's funny.
to build on
The
that,
opening to that scene. Don't ever start with the head. They get fuzzy.
Yes.
to build on that interrogation scene, talking about his presence is up to this point, for the most part, Batman can solve all of his problems by punching them.
Mm-hmm.
But that scene right there shows you, doesn't matter how many times Batman punches Joker, it doesn't matter to him. The pain is irrelevant.
It like pretty explicitly says it. You have nothing on me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way you can break me. I'm already he doesn't say this. I'm already broken. That's me interpreting I'm a fractured man and you are just my pet project.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can just see that's kind of what I mean as well when I say again, he wants to see that one bad day, blah blah blah. In that scene,
You'll get to say it again next round when we're talking about matchup to character
he's
the
just
hero.
constantly egging on Batman. He's like, "Look at you go!" And Batman's like blocking the door because he doesn't want anybody to interfere. And Joker sees this like he's gonna fucking do it. He's gonna fucking kill me. I can make him kill me. And I don't think it's because it's not because Joker wants to die. I think it's because he wants Batman to kill. Regardless, screen presence, I feel like that's all wrapped up in there. Because I'm thinking this way, it's because he's this exposed nerve in this stark white room, this gross, bloody thing, who he's like full of color and disgusting in the corner there, and Batman's there, the total opposite of this clean white room, just darkness. It's all just the visuals.
The scene that always comes back to me for this Joker is the scene where he's not actually on camera.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's where he is alone with a prisoner.
Oh, hell yes.
Filming that guy.
I believe Heath Ledger directed it.
He did.
Yeah.
It is so tense.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've seen what the Joker's like, and then we get a new side. A much more animalistic side, almost, that comes out for a very brief moment. And it's hard to tell if it's just another part of the performance or if he really is just holding that in all the time. And because there's nobody else, there's no, he's not putting on a show for anybody else. He is trying to do something to this person who he has at his complete mercy.
I am going to stop you because I realized while we were talking, this is two people trying to put on two different shows.
Yeah.
But they are putting on shows.
Mm-hmm.
And Syndrome is just this, like, I think we could all name about 6 or 7 different quotes from Heath Ledger. But the only thing any of us can remember is the monologuing quote. The only thing I can remember other than that is when they shoot down the plane, and he was like, "It looks like you were like too late, Mr. Incredible." 15 years too late.
I remember the
but like that's like
once nobody's super, nobody.
Once everyone's super,
oh yeah.
nobody.
That would have been a good criteria if we were like grading these. How many memorable quotes do they have?
That actually would be, man.
That's good for
Hans Gruber would have won. Hans Gruber won at least that side.
Yeah. But no, like I feel like they are both putting on their own type of show where he wants to portray the hero as a villain, Joker, and Syndrome wants to
portray the villain as a hero.
The villain as a hero himself.
Regardless, it's unfortunate for Syndrome that he's up against Heath Ledger's Joker.
It's number one seed.
It is unfortunate, but I think also one of the 5 of us had a good understanding of that. I think his screen presence was at its strongest when it was funny and wacky. The moment he started to get silly or serious, I don't really buy it. From him.
I don't buy it.
Which is good writing in this case, because I think that's intentional.
Sure.
But it does lose
that's
out.
What I mean. That's kind of what I meant when I said Jeffrey Epstein energy. He's this nerd who got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember when he found out that Mr. Incredible was fucking Elastigirl. And he was like...
you got busy!
You married Elastigirl?
I think... those are the moments where I think his character was the strongest. However, I felt like every moment was strong for the Joker.
I agree.
My vote's the Joker.
Joker.
The Joker.
I'm the Joker, baby.
Oh, is this not the Jared Leto one?
Yeah.
I was gonna do a quote from the Joker, but
one last.
I live by a quote from the Joker. Man, that sounds bad out of context.
But before we get out of the Joker talk, one of the reasons Jared Leto's did such shit is because there was no. I can't ask questions about his Joker. He
like
looks at the camera and says, "I'm an idea." I can't ask questions. He just told me what the fuck the deal was.
Yeah.
I can say these things and feel deep when I'm like Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker is like an idea.
You think how many people ride? How many Jokers do you think tried to ride off the success of the Heath Ledger Joker?
Him, for sure.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know if it's true, but this is what he said happened. He would do dark pranks based on, he was inspired by Heath Ledger's performance, and he would send a live rat to Margot Robbie on set I don't know how any of that's true, but
I feel like there's lawsuits involved in that.
yeah, that's kind of the reason I think none of it's true, but I don't know.
The quote, Chris, that like was inspiring to me was the if you're good at something, never do it for free.
Fuck yeah.
I thought the one I was going to say and the one I thought you were about to say was I'm like a dog chasing his own tail.
No, chasing cars.
Ah,
You haven't even seen the movie.
Anyways,
No one wants to do with what I got it.
was this a sweep?
Yeah, there you go.
I was gonna vote for Syndrome. I have more fun with Syndrome.
I can agree.
I was gonna say, I don't want to hold you against a fire, but I will, without shame. If you are that ready to vote for GLaDOS over Sephiroth, and then and you didn't vote for Syndrome, who also kind of gives off similar energy to me,
Nah,
I was gonna be like, what the fuck, dude? Similar to my Captain America moments last year.
Where are your principles? You're just saying random things.
But that's implying that Joker and Sephiroth are similar.
I think there is a
Go
presence
fuck
about
yourself.
them.
I think Joker is committing to the bit more.
Yeah. I would rather see Syndrome lose to Joker than Syndrome lose to Voldemort.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, our last matchup in supervillains will be Thanos from the MCU versus Darth Vader in terms of screen presence.
Okay.
Both galactic
Overlords.
emperors.
One's on top, though. One's on top, and the other is
Number two.
number two.
Darth Vader is not a sub.
I have to.
He's on top.
I have to
Oh,
ask,
man.
how many points does Vader get for throwing out the cheesy one-liners?
What do you mean? Like, you talking about Rogue One?
Just all of it.
7.
He does it through the entire
What
series.
are his other ones?
Very first movie where he's choking the dude out. He's like, "Don't choke on your aspiration."
Wait, he makes 2 choking jokes?
Yes, he does.
No, that's in Rogue One.
That's in Rogue One.
Oh shit, it is.
Okay, that's what I thought you were talking
Fuck.
about. Was there another one?
He does some other ones, yeah.
I don't think he's as quippy in the original trilogy.
He's definitely not as quippy, but he does have that really fun. I always laughed so much at this when I was a kid. When he's like, he chokes the guy and the guy just falls off screen, and then basically he like promotes the guy. He's like, I hope you do your best to not fuck up again, Admiral Piet. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to be this guy. Fuck Luke.
One of the funniest things to me.
Is the guy in the asteroid field. Like, you just see a hologram of him, and like, but there's an establishing shot, and then we just see an asteroid hit one of the Star Destroyers in an explosion, and then in a hologram just goes, and he disappears.
And nobody
calls attention to it.
Nothing. Oh,
Incredible.
man. I sit there and giggle to myself every time.
This is an interesting matchup because they have generally a very calm and cool demeanor, but can also just go like full barbarian when they need to.
They're known for their anger.
In Infinity War, you hardly see that with Thanos.
The scene in particular I'm thinking about is on Titan
With
when
Iron
he's
Man.
fighting Iron Man and Doctor Strange. That's really the only time you see the rage come out of him.
That and probably the time he beats up the Hulk.
Well, I disagree. I think that was total pure control.
Well,
that was the dichotomy.
yeah.
The Hulk was this unfettered monster, and he just like, I'm gonna beat your ass with technique.
And
that was good.
it really wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And it's
It made me feel bad for the Hulk.
It
Yeah.
scared the Hulk
It turned into a whole
hibernation.
story for the Hulk.
yeah, and it establishes the stakes. It's like, oh, take the objectively strongest character in the MCU, and he just gets laid out by
Like,
Thanos.
They even reclaimed the line from the first Avengers movie where he's like, I have an army, and like, we have a Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And like they hit him again.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like people got so happy. They got so excited because the Hulk showed up, they started beating the shit out of him. And then fucking Obsidian, whatever his name is, the Squidward looking guy, was like, hold on, don't do anything.
Let him have his fun.
Let him have his fun. And then like it changes everything
And
in that moment.
It establishes to the audience, you're not going to be able to just punch him. You can't overwhelm him with strength because he's stronger than all of you.
That actually is a great segue into what I was going to say regarding Thanos versus Darth Vader. With Thanos, I feel like all of his screen presence comes from butting up against the heroes, where the reason I can see the space he fills is because he pushes the heroes out when he comes in.
And to add to that, like, Darth Vader is the villain in the first movie from the rip. He is the bad guy. And he is established at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah, Thanos is
had
the
20 movies before he came in. So like from pretty much, I would assume, like the moment they announced Avengers, that's when they knew Thanos was the big bad.
Well, of course, the end credits scene has Thanos.
When they announced Avengers. But like, you have all this time when you're essentially establishing all these heroes, and you're subtly laying the groundwork for Thanos.
A couple months ago, I'm sorry, this is a brief interruption. I rewatched, just because I'm a loser, I rewatched Infinity War and Endgame. Man, it is such a seesaw. I love Endgame, don't get me wrong, but holy shit, Infinity War is like a 9 or a 10. And Endgame is like, minus some parts that make me go fucking bananas, don't get me wrong, it's like a 7 at best.
I think the reason Endgame gets so much love, most of it well-deserved, is just because it's the ending.
It's the payoff, yeah.
It's the payoff. But objectively, I think Infinity War is probably a more fun action movie.
For sure. I feel that way for sure.
I feel like Infinity War is a more complete standalone movie because it is Thanos' story.
Sure.
He walked into it, he set his goals right off the rip. You get his journey through it. You even have this heartfelt moment where he's sacrificing Gamora, and like you see him accomplish his goal at the end. Like the movie begins and ends with Thanos.
Whereas, so to contrast my point with Thanos, his screen presence, at least to me, is developed through, like I said, butting in to a scene with heroes, right? Whereas I feel like all of Darth Vader's presence, especially in that first movie, comes from his underlings, like interactions with him.
Right. Darth Vader never feels like a villain all the time.
Like, there's that one guy who's like, oh, you and your fucking sorcerer magic, you stupid shithead. And he's like, okay.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, that's the movie we're in. This isn't a political thriller.
Well, yeah, even like talking about Thanos' introduction in Infinity War, Darth Vader's introduction is just a stark white hallway on this spaceship, and then a man dressed in all black walks through the smoke. And then, like, he just murders a guy in, like, the first 5 minutes.
He's full on holding a dude up in the air with one hand and just snaps his neck.
He could, I think you said this in the last tournament, Chris. He could have just used the Force, but that motherfucker held him up with his bare ass hand and snapped his neck.
Yeah. Well, okay, so what I think is a very interesting dichotomy between the two of them is that they command the same amount of respect very differently, because we get to see them both interact with their peons, right? And Thanos is a god.
Yeah, they treat him like my
they're
father.
Cultists.
Yeah.
And they revere him because
whatever Thanos did, he got them to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It's Flavorade.
Darth Vader is a villain that we can all more relate to. He's an angry boss. He can fire you. But he can literally just like kill you on the spot.
And what am I going to say? Hey, you can't do that. I'm going to report it to HR.
Like,
I am HR.
With Thanos, you get this weird, especially his close underlings all feel very much like they are devoted to him.
I love this idea.
They love him.
It's like a fanaticism with people under Thanos.
And with Vader, it's very much they're doing what they're told because they are terrified of being in the same room with him.
And well, the children of Thanos, they are fanatical, but they also feel like ancillary. I feel like if they weren't there, Thanos would be in the exact same spot. And I believe the same thing about Darth Vader too, but he's in his position despite all the people around him.
John?
Ancillary?
Secondary. Not necessary.
Oh, okay.
They really command the scenes. Although like I said in the previous matchup, I think Darth Vader is full sending it. Darth Vader never, until the last movie, never sits around and is like remorseful or sorry that he's got to choke out another Imperial officer.
He likes choking out the Imperial officers.
He does that shit for the love of the game, bro.
He does it because it's fun.
I don't even know if he does do it because it's fun. I think he just does it because they're an inconvenience.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Finally, I can get rid of
I can literally remove this problem right now. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah. I think also this was the first time, obviously from a Star Wars perspective, that you get such a stark contrast of the light side versus the dark. Because like you're following this perspective of Luke pretty much. I guess it's really the perspective of the droids, but like you're following this perspective of Luke, and Obi-Wan is portrayed as the light side, obviously, and like then he meets Darth Vader, and they have that like standoff, and you just see the black cape with the red lightsaber come out.
Yeah.
And just this stark contrast there. And you see the brown and white with the blue. And you just, like, there's that, like, that view will forever just be in my mind.
And then you see them awkwardly dawdle at each other.
Yeah. But you go to, like, later movies when Luke gets his own lightsaber. And, like, you see just, like, another one where like everything gets silent and it gets eerie and there's like 2 seconds of what feels like a horror movie and you just hear the and like he looks around because he doesn't know where it's at and you hear the lightsaber turn on and it's just a red light in darkness, but you know like dude, this is like evil. This is bad.
Yeah, especially in the second movie when they're fighting on Cloud City. There's that scene at the very beginning where he's like, "The Force is strong with you, young Skywalker, but you aren't a Jedi yet." And then he ignites his lightsaber, they start fighting, and you're like, okay, Luke's holding his own. And then he knocks him off of the platform, and he jumps down, and he's looking for him, and you just hear the breathing. And it's like, he's in here somewhere. I don't know where.
It's like a horror. I never even thought about it. It's like a horror movie.
Is one of the things I love about Darth Vader is he has the presence, but he's also kind of a catty bitch at the same time in some ways. He's so dramatic.
He is. He really is, but like...
And you can tell a lot of times he's doing it on purpose.
I think something that is important to be said is I feel like his screen presence falls a little bit in Return of the Jedi. I feel
because he stops being a full villain.
He's that's when he starts being redeemed there at the end.
So, I think this is what's going to do it for me when it comes to this bout.
Did we talk about the hallway scene in Rogue One yet?
I was about to.
Okay.
We need to.
When I think Marvel, I think Iron Man, I think Captain America, I think of the films, the Guardians of the Galaxy, stuff.
I can see what point you're making.
Thanos is not at the top of that.
When you think Star Wars...
When I think Star Wars, my first thought is Darth Vader.
It's interesting.
I agree. I wholeheartely agree.
My first thought is slave bikini.
Oh, my first thought is Jabba the Hutt.
Hey, all right, they're similar. Okay.
While Thanos is a great character, I love his story and where he is and his scenes. Darth Vader is Star Wars to me. Like it does not exist without him. And
it really makes you feel like
presence.
Spider-Man.
That makes me... That's interesting. I wonder if there's a correlation to that because, like, Darth Vader was there from the get-go, and Thanos wasn't truly, like, getting screen presence until, like I said, 20 movies later.
Yeah.
That could be the case. But I don't know, like... Because Thanos had an incredible impression when he did show up, much in the way that Negan did. But, like... I don't, like, Darth Vader is only kind of tangentially in 1 through 3. Like, yeah, technically it's Anakin, but he's not Darth Vader yet. Yeah. And in 7 through 9, he's dead, and he doesn't even show up as a ghost. But he's only in 3 of them.
You still feel, you feel a screen presence from him when all you see is the broken mask.
Right.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
And I think that's still kind of leaning into that, where it's like he's still even dead and fully gone, he's still there.
I know.
I
I'm
will
gonna-
say,
oh,
I don't think Darth Vader has ever made a bunch of people cry when they walk out of a theater.
What?
Out of my penis, maybe.
Oh my god.
One last note. I know who I'm going to vote for. I think we maybe all do.
Yeah.
One last note. I have been pretty vocal in the past about how I hate fan service. That being said, Rogue One was made for fat nerds like me.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I don't like. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about Rogue One and how it's eclipses the quality of current Star Wars. Regardless, in that fucking scene, it's so fucking good.
Yeah,
dude.
baby.
When it's just dark, and then you're like, bro, it's about to get messy in this hallway. I know what happened.
Here's the thing: it's dark, and we hear the footsteps, and you're like, "Is it gonna happen?"
It reminds me of the Batman.
And then you hear the breathing, and you're like, "It's gonna happen!" I am so excited to be bad.
It captures that it captures that thing that we all we've missed for so long, but it captures that scene where you see a silhouette of red.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't even start with that. Like I said, he's still being so overly dramatic.
Bro, he force pushes somebody to a ceiling.
Oh, it gets better when
he billows his cape.
he billows his cape in space with the Force.
He's a queen, and I'm here for it. And I love how that scene goes perfectly into the beginning of episode 1 because
4.
episode 4. Thank you.
Who cares?
Because if we go from Rogue One to episode 4, then we watch him do all of that stuff and then end it by just choking and snapping someone's neck.
See, that's my biggest problem with the scene. I think the massive tonal shift between end of Rogue One and episode 4 is a little too jarring, and it taken completely out of context. I love the scene, but I think it is very out of place for that movie and the movie that comes after it.
I do feel like they said, dude, we haven't seen the beginning of A New Hope in a long time, but this is what I remember. And they're like, hell yeah, dude, let's do it. And then finally, after they made the movie and watched it, they're like, all right, let's start episode 4. They're like, fuck, wow.
It was a lot more subdued than
Let's
I
vote.
remember.
Let's vote.
Lord Vader?
Is that your vote?
He did it. I don't know if he was praying. Vader as well for me.
There was a time that we were talking about Darth Vader and we were talking about the selling points, and I had to force myself to remember who his opponent was. So I think I'm going to go with Darth Vader.
Wow. That's incredible.
Remember, if you strike him down, he'll only come back.
That's
I disagree
Obi-Wan.
with you about not
That's
remembering
Obi-Wan.
Thanos. Or about not putting Thanos up there. I think Thanos is a very important character, and he's one of the characters I think of.
He's talking to Chris, not us.
Chris, yeah.
Vader.
I think Thanos is a great villain, but he's also... I don't think he has great screen presence. He's commanding, but he's also almost bored
That's a good way of putting it.
of what he's doing, especially in Infinity War.
I would say tired.
Yeah.
There's something about him that's just a little too soft.
You think?
Bro, he threw his daughter over a cliff.
I'm saying there's
Maybe if he shouted more.
there's an unfortunate level of he's too gentle without being scary about it.
Sure.
And I think
That's
that's
a good-
what loses it for me.
Yeah. In any other context, he could absolutely be a hero.
I mean, that's actually pretty fair, because we'll take 2 hallway scenes where they mow down people. Darth Vader is a terrifying force. Thanos is going through all the Avengers that are between him and Wanda, and he's not trying to hurt them. He's just trying to subdue them so he can get to his goal.
He's not even trying to subdue them, just get them out of the
Bro,
way.
It
he
also
knocked
feels kind of
Captain
incidental.
America the fuck out.
I mean, yeah, sure, but he's just trying to get them out of his way.
Yeah.
Darth Vader would have sliced them all in half.
Yeah, they
and
would just be
not
dead.
care. Yeah.
Do you think he could beat Thor?
So we all go with Vader.
I'm gonna go with Darth Vader. He's got a black skull mask.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, there
How
is
much more presence do you need?
Well, Thanos has a ball sack for a chin.
There's a 4-year-old boy who is like
4, huh?
You better fucking not vote for that purple grimace looking motherfucker.
Is this the same Is this the same boy that's inside?
Same boy.
All right, our final two matchups for our second round of the tournament. We're back into the anime bracket. We see Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z versus Light Yagami from Death Note in terms of character charisma and screen presence.
You guys like it when
Alright,
jokes get repeated?
I'll start.
So this isn't Light Turner?
I have it written as Light Turner in the bracket, but
Here's the thing, alright? Bro made eating potato chips look crazy.
Okay, that's actually a really good point. That is all presence, right?
It's all him.
All present.
He's sitting there, and you have him just aggressively writing names on the book while watching TV, watching the news, and eating potato chips. And the whole time you're like, dude, what the fuck is happening?
you're just enthralled.
Yeah.
Especially with the anime guys, maybe this is just the way I feel. It's easier to think of a specific moment. Like, I've been thinking, all right, what's the most presence Vegeta's had in the entire series? And it was, and he's doing Final Flash.
Yeah.
That's the most presence I've felt, and he was a hero in that moment.
He did. He was back on his second redemption arc.
So I don't think he feels kind of petulant. Like, the most presence he has in his villain segment, I guess, would be
When he kills Nappa?
yeah. Like, we see Nappa be this incredibly amazing, powerful guy who's destroying our heroes, and then he gets beat a little bit by Goku. I say a little bit. Goku kicks his ass, and Vegeta, this squat little bastard, is like, "Oh, Nappa, you."
Jesus.
And he throws Nappa away and blows him up.
I think that might have been a mistranslation there.
Sorry.
Were you watching subbed?
Yeah, I was watching the sub.
Was that a fan sub?
Yeah, I guess.
You guys
it
remember
was.
Dragon's Ball PP?
Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do.
Daddy!
Ew.
Regardless, I certainly don't equate Vegeta with screen presence.
I kind of disagree.
Right.
I
do, too.
think Vegeta's really hamming it up. I think especially in the Saiyan Saga, he loves being a villain. And he's bragging, he's always talking shit,
Oh, that's a good point.
and he becomes a giant monkey. I needed a third thing.
Well, I think
That's
You're right.
always a good point.
He does become a giant monkey.
like, if you are new to Dragon Ball Z, or like if you're new to the Dragon Ball series, like you haven't watched Dragon Ball at all, like, you know Goku has beaten Raditz, and apparently back in the day he beat Piccolo.
Raditz what I breathe. You're laughing. You're laughing. Okay.
You totally just derailed anything I was thinking about.
Oh, so Light wins.
He didn't even kill Raditz. Piccolo had to do it.
He just held Raditz in
just-
place and got
yeah,
a big
he
fucking
Put him in
cannon
a full
shot.
Nelson. There's this huge tonal shift when Vegeta kills Nappa, and it rides, and it rides, and it rides. And everything that Goku knows how to do isn't enough to stop him. At one point you think it is. At one point you thought he fucking Team Rocketed him when he Kaioken times 10. And like he just kept going.
What a great scene.
Fuck yeah.
But like even then, like at that point on, Goku was toast. He had basically crippled his body. And bro just fell for 2 episodes and then got back up. And he's like, I didn't hear no bell.
Goku's like, I think I heard something. I think I heard a bell.
Thank God for Yajirobe. Well,
Like, it
Yeah.
took so many different things to happen for them to finally be on the same playing level as Vegeta.
He was like Goku. He was superior to Goku in the Saiyan Saga. The only reason Goku won is because of Gohan, Krillin, Yajirobe, and the Spirit Bomb.
Yep.
I don't think in a straight fight, I don't think Goku beats Vegeta in Saiyan Saga.
While in the moment we might not see it as as that charisma of controlling the scene, but you look back on it and it's like, dude, he was like, he sells his soul to Majin or whatever, and like there's a moment where you're like, oh fuck, like this is like he's back. he's back to this.
He like kills an entire crowd
Yeah.
or whatever.
And like the stakes are risen immediately, where he just puts his hand up. He's like, "If you don't fucking fight me right now, I'll do this." And he's doing it for not the main villainous reasons. He's doing it because he just wants to be better than Goku.
Very selfish.
Exactly. But like the lengths at which he will do it, and like it's just that is like to me his greatest villain scene, where it's just like it's so hard for me to put
Even in
words.
those scenes, I find it difficult. We've talked about this, you and I, John. It's difficult for me not to feel so bad for Vegeta.
Later on, yeah.
Because you're like, all right, Goku, we're making a deal. You have to go all out on me, okay?
Okay.
And yes, Vegeta, yes, I'll go all out on you.
All right, I nuked myself.
Okay, you won.
Is Vegeta gone?
You won, Goku.
Okay, I gotta go even
You
further
had long hair the whole time. You had a long hair mode and a world-ending Super Saiyan 3 mode. The whole time you could have been using this against me.
It's like he walked in on him cheating. On
Yeah. I feel so bad.
I did feel bad about that.
Is there anything else about Light?
For sure. I was about to go into it.
Oh, okay.
Most of his screen presence, I feel, comes from his, like... I talk about this so often with Death Note and why I hate it when stories in general do this trick where they just say a guy is smart.
Mm-hmm.
Death Note shows me, like, in a very real way, I buy that Light is smarter than I am. At the very least, I can see the writer thought about this shit more than I ever would have. And I buy that he is outsmarting all of these detectives because he outsmarted me. And I'm not saying but that's like, you have to trick the viewer, right? Mm-hmm. You have to trick the viewer into being like, wow, okay, I didn't see that one coming, but it makes sense. And I buy that. And a lot of his screen presence comes in that dichotomy of, I'm just a high school student. I really want my dad to catch this Kira guy. But back of the head, here I am. I'm Kira. And a lot of his screen presence comes in that dichotomy is what I'm saying. Even the chips scene. Yeah. That is bred from the dichotomy of, I'm just eating chips. And I'm going to eat it, take a chip, and eat it.
That's also just like an implication of like, every chip that he eats in the bag, he's murking another person.
Yeah.
This is an interesting criteria to grade people by, is for screen presence, can they make mundane actions seem interesting and engaging? And I think Light is the first round pick.
Absolutely. I agree. He kind of embodies that idea of like a tennis match.
It was just a tennis match.
But L knows that he's Kira. He can't prove it, but he has such a strong and powerful suspicion that this man is capable enough to be Kira.
I think this is another sign of like their good writing. Because if the writer wanted to just flat out say like, oh, you guys should think these guys are smart, they would have been sitting down playing a game of chess.
Yeah.
I hate that trope.
Sure.
What's
Yeah,
even worse about that trope, god damn it, I get so mad about Code Geass. People love Code Geass. Literally, he sits down to play chess and he's losing so bad, and then it cuts away and it's just a guy saying, wow, I can't believe you beat him from that position in 3 moves. Fucking show it to me if you think he's so smart. God damn it.
We are also in the interesting part where this next one's going to be the same too. Light's the main character. Mm-hmm. Cody, you made the question every time that came up. Light's the main character.
How can he be a bad guy?
The interesting thing regarding Eren is there is a huge spoilers, guys. There is an argument to be made that he was not the bad guy at all. He was the bad guy the whole time. There was a point where he's the bad guy, and before that he was the good guy. You can make that argument for all 3, and I could buy it in all 3 scenarios. That being said, we're not talking about him yet.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
For me, I'm more entertained by watching Light do things than I am by watching Vegeta. Other than when he's shooting Final Flash, and that's amazing, but he's not a villain in that moment.
He isn't.
I think I'm leaning towards Vegeta here because I like watching Vegeta be maniacal and evil more. Light might be a more interesting and developed character, but I think he suffers from being too confident in his abilities to where he never he can come off as like bored with what he's doing. It just rote.
I'll put it to you like this. It's fun to watch Vegeta get his ass kicked.
And it's fun to watch Vegeta kick ass.
Vegeta didn't get his ass kicked really much as a villain, though.
But my point is, even when he is, it's still fun and engaging. And it's because of who Vegeta is, not just because the other character is winning.
And I don't want to imply that watching what Light does isn't entertaining.
Absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
And enjoyable, but I think it's more fun to watch Vegeta.
This is this is again a tough one because I don't for the next one I got
That's
things.
interesting.
I don't really care who wins this one. I love both these people.
I also think Vegeta is like I said, he's full sending being a villain in Saiyan Saga. Yeah. Whereas Light at least has the plausible deniability that, he thinks he's the good guy, or at least he's doing good things.
You could make the argument that I'm sure a lot of people, especially people on the right, would think he is doing the right thing. In real life, I'm sure people could watch Death Note and be like, what's the deal? Yeah, this is good.
Why don't we?
But isn't that like the writing of a good villain is that like it makes you can see why they think that's the good thing to do. Like you can see what their case is.
Absolutely. I mean, there's certainly cases. Yeah.
I mean, there was the whole Thanos was right. Stuff.
I do think it's interesting that like we have we have a very clear cut in like the type of illustrations that we have. Dragon Ball Z is heavily fighting. Sorry if you guys don't know that. Whereas like Death Note is pure strategy.
Yeah. It's the most violent thing that happens in Death Note is that tennis match.
Pretty much,
yeah. But I do agree. Besides like those two things, especially after L finally dies, like
spoilers.
I feel man, you need to go watch Attack on Titan right now. Then. I feel like after that, everything falls off. Death Note should have ended after L died and Light won.
The problem is, I think we've talked about this ad nauseum. I have at least. I don't know the case. This is my read on it. I feel like the writer, God knows what the manga happened. The writer made Light so good at his job. And he got to a point where he's like, well, L's smart, but this guy can just kill people by writing in a book. Yeah. And he is intelligent enough to use that so brutally. I don't think L wins. And then magically there's some other detective orphan that just shows up after L. Yeah, shows up after L dies.
I will say that. What's the most iconic thing to you guys about Vegeta?
Hair.
Saiyan armor?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
I mean...
Over 9,000.
It's over.
I feel like...
The Gallic gun.
I feel like Light's portrayal of the Death Note book, like, is... You see, like, everything that people do mimics those scenes. Mm-hmm. Those writing scenes. He makes writing! Look...
That's kind of...
Like action.
It's wrapped up into the chip scene. That's why I'm voting for L. Or Light, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's just all presents to me.
Can I vote for both?
Absolutely not, no.
Okay.
Let's vote.
You can either vote for one, or
Kyle,
you can vote for neither.
Vegeta. He is just more of a fun villain for me.
I can't disagree.
I think I'm going to give it to Vegeta.
Okay.
So you're Light?
Say your choice.
I don't know what I am yet.
Say your choice.
You haven't arrived at me.
Say your choice.
Even though I just said what I was going to vote for. Maybe he swayed me.
So...
I'm going to tell you Vegeta.
He's shaking. Look at him.
Chris, I chose Kyle to go first so that I could be the pressure.
Oh, thanks. I wanted to go last.
Yeah, but now if he picks Vegeta, Vegeta wins somehow.
Here's the thing.
That's their fault.
I haven't watched Death Note. I've watched Dragon Ball.
But you have watched Attack on Titan.
You're really making me want to watch Death Note.
Oh, you should. It's good.
It's a good show.
It's not too long.
Yeah.
I want to give it to Light.
You want to? Are you going to?
The implication being that you're not going to.
No, I'm... Because Vegeta, we get to see be destructive. And
we get to see Light be destructive.
well, we get to see Light be human, and that makes him a worse villain.
Oh, that's
What?
interesting.
Because
I like that.
Hitler was
Oh,
a
no.
person. He led
Oh.
to millions of deaths.
We understood that the other way.
Yeah. I'm like, I think one of Light's defining characteristics is his lack of humanity.
Oh, I see. Okay, that too. I'm judging
you're
what you're
saying-
talking about.
Okay.
He's saying Light is is the worst possible scenario.
Yeah, that's kind of what.
For a bad person getting power.
Yeah, my vibe for Death Note was, what if this fell into the absolute worst or best possible hands?
I would inarguably say worst.
So I'm
Sure.
giving it to Light.
Like,
Okay.
Because he's just going around killing people indiscriminately at that stage. Anybody who pisses him off.
You ever say you want something and you don't actually want it?
Yeah.
I think you're saying Light.
Light.
2-2, John.
John is now making a decision.
So, like,
I swear to God.
how much money you got?
No,
can you give
literally none. I'm destitute.
What's that
No,
mean?
I swear to God.
Oh, man. I think it's gonna go to Light because
I didn't see that coming.
I think Vegeta did a lot with the small time that he had as villain, and he had such iconic moments. At least a iconic moment.
I'll admit that a lot of the reason that I voted for Light, not most, like I said, when I feel my favorite Vegeta being on screen doing Vegeta moments is when he's a hero.
Yeah, but like I look at like his big villain moment when he's in the arena and he forces Goku to fight by just saying like, okay, if you need a reason to make this easy for you, here, I'll kill all these people. And like that's like so insane to me, but like for all the time that you get Light, you follow Light through, and I just feel like he has so many moments that just make me nervous and scared, and like I'm watching all this stuff up until that halfway point with L. Like after that I said it falls off, but
That's my problem with having, like, that's part of why I picked Vegeta, is Light, to me, overstays his welcome as a villain.
you mean the main character?
Yeah. Like, that's the problem.
I think
is,
that's kind of what I meant when I said the writer got into the situation where he was like,
yeah,
I don't think L can win this.
He won, and then the story kept going, and he lost anyway, and it wasn't fulfilling. Whereas Vegeta gets his ass handed to him and keeps coming back. But at a certain point, it stops being an issue because he stops being the villain. And I think that's why Vegeta is more endearing to me in that regard.
Absolutely, I can
Sure.
agree. I mean, if we're talking
Dude, it
about
was-
which one I want to cuddle with, it's not Light.
It was a 51-49 argument.
What
in my head.
Vegeta's like what, like 4'3"? Like I could hold him in my arms.
Yeah, my point
And
is,
he's always wearing those tights.
my problem with Light is he fucking won the race and then fucking face planted well after the finish line. Like he
I'm gonna do it.
He fucking won the trophy and then fell backwards in the shower and busted his head. Like that's my point. There, it's like it's such.
All right.
That's where it gets bad.
What's our next one?
Here's just a real quick thought I had. A little mini tournament we can game theory here. We swap in Ryuk for Light.
I don't see him as a villain at all.
You don't?
He's like a force of nature,
just-
like in a literal sense.
He's
'cause
literally
death's
just here to
natural.
watch. At this.
Death is natural, and he is a god of death.
Yeah,
But he does.
Do you want to switch in Ryuk?
I would say
Now that Vegeta's lost.
Oh, we just need a simple majority if we vote.
Also, he's a little bit adorable.
Yeah.
gonna
He does
say that.
trick him
Wasn't
at the
he
end.
played by Willem Dafoe or who?
Yeah, he did honestly great.
Best
I
part
know
of the
best part
movie.
of the
I never watched it.
Just watch some clips of
Yeah.
him.
Okay.
Best
There's
part
like
of the movie.
there's
by
like 5
far.
scenes.
Regardless,
All right. Final matchup for round 2. We have Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan versus Askeladd.
you ready for me to do a lot of
From
talking?
Vinland.
You ready? You ready for me to topple you with my Askeladd knowledge?
Yeah.
Okay,
Did you watch Vinland Saga?
go ahead.
Make this brief, because I already know who I'm voting for.
So Askeladd Souls.
We're gonna go get some milk.
This is a bit tough. Most of his screen presence is going to come from him being. I said this earlier. He's an opportunistic manipulator. So most of his screen presence is derived from him just having a conversation with our hero, Thorfinn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting with Askeladd. He is a villain. He does horrible things. He doesn't even think he's right. He says something really telling, I think, near the end of his story, where he's looking at Thorfinn, and I can't remember who he's talking to exactly, but he's referring to this squad of mercenary Vikings that he's in control of. And the reason he's in control of them is because he's that good at killing. He is a very capable warrior. And he says something along the lines of, if I'm gone, who's going to keep these fucking worthless assholes in check? They are going to rape and kill unchecked, and because I'm here, we get to rape and kill what I say. And it's pretty rough, that scene. But I think that's a lot of his screen presence, is these horrible monsters see him, and they're like, okay, yeah, what you say, Askeladd?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what you say.
Your horrible monster numero uno.
Yeah. He is the top dog. He is the alpha wolf in a pack of mongrel dogs. He says walk, they say how high, because they're not very intelligent. Speaking of, there's a scene with Thorkel the Tall. They're getting chased by Thorkel the Tall's men, and Askeladd's men are, and like they start. That's the one point where it's starting to break, where they're like, Askeladd, we're gonna fucking die, and Askeladd's like, well, we just need to get away with Prince Canute, because if we get him to his king, I can turn that boy into a king. And Thorkel is like on this huge hill, literally half a mile away, and he's like, there they are! And he throws the spear and impales 3 of Askeladd's dudes on it.
Holy crap.
And everyone's like, holy fucking shit, oh my god! And Askeladd's like, alright, well, we gotta go. We spent so much time breaking that bridge, but they're just gonna cross this 3 feet of water and kill us, so. Eren Yeager's screen presence, huh?
Well, I got a question for you first, Scott.
Yeah.
When would you say Eren became the villain?
Like I said, there's an argument to be made.
I want to hear your thought.
I would like to put a little bit of input in for a second.
Yeah.
On screen, he has a titan of a presence.
Very good.
Continue.
Very good.
See you at the end of the episode, Chris.
I think he's the villain. His presence, they explain it, and it doesn't feel like a retcon to me. Because everything feels so planned. He explains he had to direct the Titan to kill his mom in order for things to happen the way it did.
Yeah.
He had to direct that Titan to kill Hannes. That's when he made contact with that one Titan. That's what happened. My argument is he's been a villain the whole time. At least his presence as a villain has been present the whole time.
Sure. I feel like he did. So, to me, that means you can see it on rewatchability.
Sure.
But going through and watching it like we did, he did not become a villain until the moment you see him first step into the ocean.
That's a good one. I think another good one is when he touches Historia.
Yeah.
And he like gets that quick vision.
Oh, it could be that, actually.
He gets that quick vision, and you're like, what did he see? Mm-hmm. And we don't know what he saw.
Because, like, at that moment, he's like, dude, please just fucking kill me. Mm-hmm. Just fucking end it. You need to end it now.
But he already knows it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, as far as his presence goes, what would you say? I mean, it's pretty, like you said, Titan of presence. It's pretty goddamn badass.
That's so tough. I'm gonna treat it as though my first time watching it, and I'm gonna go from the moment Historia and him make contact.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go from that moment on.
I mean, if you really like remove all, the first time the viewer sees him as in my opinion, unequivocal villain is him in that basement with Reiner in the city.
I was gonna say that's where I think the first time he really like makes the switch was, like I said, at the beach scene, I don't think you truly pick up on it until he's basically like threatening to nuke the city.
So for some context, Eren, we see it, the viewer sees it as Eren wanting to do to the rest of the world what he sees as the rest of the world did to him when they kicked in the wall with the Colossal Titan. And he finds himself in the rest of the world, and he manipulates this little boy who is part of the new Titan program in what is functionally Nazi Germany. And the little boy's like, come on, I this guy, he says he's like a war friend of yours, he knows you. And he leads Reiner, who is the armored Titan, to Eren. And Eren is in the basement of this fully populated building. And
with some sort of event happening right outside of it.
And so it's absolutely fucking packed. There's people in the windows looking out, and Eren's like, hey. And he's got this cut on his arm, because that's how you turn yourself into a Titan, and he has full control over it, so he didn't automatically turn himself into a Titan when he cut himself.
But he pretty much loaded the gun.
Gun is loaded, and he's looking at Reiner and says the most important line, which is what Reiner said to him, I'm a warrior. That's how I'm able to do what I'm about to do, Reiner, because I'm a warrior. And Reiner said that same thing to him, we are warriors. That's how we are capable of killing all of these innocent people. And it was in that moment, Reiner made the realization that, oh fuck, Eren's about to kill everybody in this city. And the thing is, Eren knows he's so important because he is the holder of the Attack Titan, the founding Titan.
Mm-hmm.
And he put himself into this absurdly dangerous situation because he wanted to eat the Warhammer Titan. Blah, 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 blah. He knows that because he sent a letter to the island somehow, that they are going to back him up and be able to get him out of the city. And he also knows that the consequences of them backing him up are they will have to use the Colossal Titan against the city's navy and kill who knows how many people.
The Colossal Titan is straight up an actual
It is a
nuke.
It is like, that's the image. Quite literally, when Armin turns into the Colossal Titan, it makes a huge mushroom cloud and kills people and eviscerates them, that kind of thing. Regardless, in screen presence,
that scene,
hell yeah.
The scene where he's sitting there talking to Reiner, like, you don't know what to feel anymore. Your whole world, like Reiner, just gets flipped upside down.
Yeah, because I'm rooting for Eren. He is the hero. I want him to win. And then he blows up a building. I'm like, maybe they can be friends. Hold on a second. Because even Reiner's like, he understands me. Eren literally says, I know what you meant when you said you're a warrior. I'm the same as you, Reiner. And that's when he blows up.
But like the scene itself lasts for 5 or 6 minutes.
It felt longer.
Like it feels like an eternity. And the whole time you were just so full of dread. Because like Eren has complete control. And you don't even know it yet, but he's had it this whole time. And like he's just now revealing that card.
It's so much
that
cooler too.
Because
you've seen Eren, like, you've been seeing this guy, you haven't really seen his face, and he's missing a leg. And you're like, well, shit, that must not be Eren. Who is this?
Regenerate.
Yeah, he would have regenerated his leg, or maybe he lost his Titan powers or something. What's going on? And he's just been manipulating this poor kid the whole time. And in that scene, you still have that fleeting hope. Maybe he's still a good guy. Maybe he knows something that I don't, which he does. And unfortunately, that thing he knows is that he is the worst guy. All that to say, his screen presence in that scene is probably the most powerful it ever was.
That is the most suspenseful scene I've ever seen in an anime.
For sure.
And then there's other scenes where, like, from that moment on, he just has this control about him. And it's such a flip from... He has this role of, like, anime protagonist where, like, at the last minute, he's always able to make things work out. He doesn't, but it always feels that way.
And I think that level of control is a side effect of the foregone conclusion syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. He's seen the end of the story. He knows that no matter what the fuck he does, he is going to end up there. That's just the way it is. Foregone conclusion. And it comes off as like, okay, he's confident. We didn't see this kind of confidence in him when he was like killing Titans on the island. So what's happened? And unfortunately, the worst possible thing is that this is the one thing we didn't want to happen, and unfortunately it happened.
There's other scenes too. A lot of the scenes that I feel like really just takes precedence is when he's sitting down talking to all these characters that you've now spent multiple seasons learning to just love. Like, there's a scene a little bit later on after that. The island kind of goes into a civil war of Yeagerists and everybody else, and his whole squad is like not really for it, but they don't know how to feel. And there's a moment where he sits down with Armin and Mikasa, and like you realize you're like, I don't even know this guy anymore.
Yeah, he's like, that's another honestly good screen presence moment, is he's egging on Armin and like talking about how Mikasa isn't even a real person, and the thing she feels, this is what he's saying. Mikasa, you aren't even a real person. The things you're feeling are because literally your genetics have, as an Ackerman, made it like the king used his Eldian powers, which is what the people who can turn into Titans are. He used his Eldian controlling powers to make a bloodline of Eldians whose sole purpose is to serve the king and do exactly and protect him at all costs. And that's got muddied over the years, and I am your king. Somehow, your genetics have recognized me as your king. That's why you're capable of incredible acts of strength and whatnot to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
And Mikasa's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he's like, I've always fucking hated you, Mikasa. I fucking hate you. And she doesn't know. She's like crying. She doesn't know what to do. And Armin punches him, or goes to punch him. And Mikasa just like pins him to the ground because she can't help it. And then he's like, do you know why I've never actually fought you, Armin? Even though, like, we're kids. We grew up together. Kids fight. It's because I know I'd kick your fucking ass. And then he kicks the fucking shit out of Armin.
See, it's the... I love his villain arc, right? Because we get to see this weird dichotomy, right? Where he gets to be that person, right? But he also has a lot of regret about what he knows he has to do.
And yeah.
Because like there's that little Egyptian kid.
Yeah.
And
with the fez.
He saves the kid from getting like killed because he stole some coins from some people, right?
And he's like trying to convince himself, why am I even doing this? It's a foregone conclusion. I know what happens to this kid.
But he does it anyway, and then he escorts him to like this refugee camp where him and his family are staying with hundreds of thousands of other people. And he stops at the top of this hill looking at this camp, and he's weeping.
And he's just looking at the kid going, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
There's these multiple moments where like he's had this vision, so he knows what he's about to do through the rest of the story. He knows. And like that weeping is, I think that weeping is like, it's confirming to himself that I'm about to be the worst person.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a scene that like when I first watched it was jaunting to me. And it's when Best Girl dies. She gets shot.
Yeah, poor Sasha.
Yeah. And everybody's like, oh my god, she's dead. She's dying. And Eren's like, did she have any last words? And Connie was like, yeah, she said potatoes. And like, she was, her whole thing was food. She loved eating.
Mm-hmm.
That's why she was so endearing, is because compared to all of these other characters, Sasha felt the most, she like did not belong. Well, she did not belong killing these, in this horrible dystopian world, killing Titans, because she was just like a funny, wacky girl who liked to eat potatoes and meat.
Yep. But like, to us, to the watchers, it's like, potatoes.
Oh shit.
And I'm like, that's tough. But like, Eren's just like, he starts doing this crazy laugh. And it wasn't until later on that like, that was the laughter of like somebody who knew like, this is sealed.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the most random fucking thing to say. When he probably had the vision, he's like, that's so random. If she says something else, there's a chance. There's a chance that maybe not everything's set in stone. But she said exactly that. And he just starts laughing, and everybody's like, dude, what the fuck, man? She just died. And he's like, you wouldn't get it. You just wouldn't understand.
So all this to say, there's no way I'm going to vote for Askeladd here. I'll fully admit, there are probably even moments that I could be convinced that his screen presence is more compelling than Eren's. There is no way I'm voting for Askeladd here.
There are villains and there are horrible monsters. And when given a chance, we will vote for the horrible monster.
I mean, in this scenario, sure.
This is fair.
Eren.
This
Flip a
is
coin.
such a flat landslide for me.
Well, I think I'll probably need to go watch Attack on Titan.
Highly recommend both these series. I finished the second season of Vinland Saga as well. Ashlad's not in it. He's dead. Spoiler alert. Isn't that great?
Oh, cool.
Real good. Real good. Both
You know
seasons.
who didn't die in the first season?
Eren.
Better villain.
He's in the second season, but it's like a guy hallucinating him.
Oh. Oh, it's just like Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
Soup!
There's a guy in Vinland Saga hallucinating Eren?
No,
Yeah.
Askeladd.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Askeladd Yeager.
What if his name?
I want to abstain. Because I haven't seen either of these. But
Didn't our ramblings convince you?
it kind of convinced me that Eren Yeager is just kind of like a mopey emo kid.
A little bit.
And I don't find that very compelling.
I can agree.
So I think Askeladd has more riz.
Okay.
I think Askeladd could probably convince me to fight the Danes. Chris, what's your vote?
I'm pouring out Jägermeister for the Jaeger man.
Yeager means hunter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, did you say yours?
I did not.
Did you know our friend Eren Yeager is named after this character?
we do have a friend named Eren Yeager.
Yeah,
Oh, dox him, why don't you?
I did.
All right,
It's
well,
spelled the same.
I believe that's a 3-1 vote then.
Kyle, how dare you abstain? Name one right now.
I don't.
And
Consequences are done. Just say one.
Eren.
I kind of want to watch Attack on Titan a little bit more.
Just fucking say one.
I was about to say a completely incorrect thing. I was about to say
Vegeta.
Vinland Saga is less of a bummer, but that's
That's not even true.
That's hard to say.
all right, we're done with round 2.